well, and another wonderful day with the Crotchety Old Men podcast. Hello, I'm Gary Smith, one of the co-hosts of the podcast. Along with me in the studio today is my main partner, George Crumley. Top of the day to you, George. What's up?
Smitty as well. I'm always doing great. How about yourself?
Man, just great and getting better, George. What can we say? At our stage in life, it just keeps getting gooder and gooder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Health is wealth is what I always say.
Isn't that the truth? That's the
Definitely.
truth. Well, man, another new episode for this week. Who do we have with us joining us today, George?
Well, Gary, we've got actually a lifelong friend of mine, Greg Thrasher, who's also a resident of, grew up in Detroit with us. So it's always good to have a Detroit brother on. And Greg, he's gone down this interesting path. He went to Michigan State University, go Spartans. He's been a mentor, an author. But today we've got him on to talk about a project that he started years ago, and now he's kind of bringing it back to light. It's called Plain Ideas. So I thought we'd have him on today to kind of kick off his new venture here and talk a little about that and how it's impacting him and his community. Welcome, Greg. How you doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks for being here with you and Gary. It's great, man. Good to be alive.
Good.
Good to be alive.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Greg. Give them a little bit of your background.
Obviously made in Detroit. Went to Catholic school in Detroit, St. Martin de Porres. And then from there went to Michigan State. And then I went to law school briefly in Detroit at Wayne State. So my roots are in Detroit, made in Detroit. My cultural and political DNA is rooted in Detroit. And it's essentially has been the anchor of my adult life for basically all my life. Most of my philosophies, my interpretation of reality, and how I deal with the community is driven and kind of the foundation began in Detroit. Primarily living in a black community, a black neighborhood. All of my when I went to St. Martin de Porres, my principal was the first black principal in a Catholic school. And most of my teachers were black, and most of my fellow peers were black. So I had, besides the cliche of a village, I had an interactive relationship with my community and the school, and it was all tied in to kind of made me who I am today, essentially, George.
Good. That's an excellent place to start. So let's talk a little bit about community. What does community mean to you?
Well, it has expanded. We were talking about that earlier. Now it's a catch-all phrase, which encompasses more than just your local neighborhood. We're impacted by so many things now, with not just the internet, but so many forces involved in the community, from institutions, workplace, TV, political marketing, campaigns, all kind of things interact that makes it part of the community. And also we interact with it as well. And I like that. I like not just being a block of a neighborhood. I like having an input that impacts the whole community, again, from political to economic to social, whatever. So I like where America is right now. We're not just about an individual, we're about a collective, and we're all in this situation together. And I know it's a cliche, but it is true. United we stand, divided we fall. That's how I look at the community.
That is very true. That is very true. So tell me, how does your community, how does that shape Plain Ideas? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I live in Maryland now. In Maryland, we just recently elected a progressive, our first black governor, Wes Moore. And considering all the politicians that exist in the marketplace now, he's pretty progressive in my view. And so he's already impacted our community by some laws that he signed, including, I think recently he just signed a law to put a clamp on some gun ownership. Guns not allowed in certain venues, churches, schools, places like that. He's also proactive with regard to a lot of states, red states, want to send the National Guards to the border. And Governor Moore doesn't want to do that. He wants to focus on the issues here in Maryland. rather than send our National Guard hundreds of miles away to Florida for some political thing, right? So since he's a governor here, and I'm a voter and I'm a resident of Maryland, one of our projects this year, George, is that we're going to try to lobby him in the Maryland legislature to work on a gun violence project that we have. So that's an immediate uh, relationship I'm going to have with him shortly, hopefully within the next week or so. I'm going to try to get to meet his staff and the legislature, some key members of the legislature, to push our proposal. We have a proposal that we want to push regarding gun violence. Plain ideas.
It's interesting you talk about gun violence, Greg, but before I go there, now Maryland has this black governor, and
Yes.
it's refreshing to hear that he at least has some interest in reaching back to communities. I know he has to have that blanket approach at all communities because he is this governor of the
Yes,
entire state of Maryland.
yes he
Uh,
is. Mhm.
Obviously, on this platform, we're talking community. At least when I'm talking community, and maybe I can sure you probably feel the same. That we're talking about our community, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And what I've seen so often in the past from political figures that they'll say all those good things and get our votes and stuff, and then that's the only time you hear the word community come from. Okay, if they
That's
come
true.
to our community, they only reason they're coming through. All right,
Yes.
and so
Drive-bys.
how exactly? So with this progressive approach, are you feeling that this guy is going to be the real deal, where he's going to really come in and show up in the community, not only from the the feel good heartthrob, but from the financial, from the pocketbook?
Well, I'm not going to be naive. All of these elected officials are politicians, and so they have an agenda beyond mine, right? And most of them want to be reelected, and most of them, I'm not giving them any money, by the way. So so being realistic about it, I know whatever FaceTime I get in front of him, it won't be a lot of FaceTime, and he'll have an objective to have me there anyway. He has his own agenda, right? So, but I think the agenda that I have for him, particularly the lobbying I'm going to do with him, is going to make him a legendary governor. It's going to be a template for other states to follow. So I what I want to do, Gary, I want to incentivize this guy to latch on to our proposal, which will take him beyond his tenure as a governor into another realm. Because right now the Democratic Party doesn't have a lot of progressive black men
Right,
in the stable,
right,
ready to
right.
take over when Biden leaves, for instance, right? I think this guy has a potential to be one of those candidates on the short list to be a Democratic nominee for the president of the United States. Because Biden obviously is not going to be here for a long time, right?
Right.
And so, and,
Yeah.
and so, without talking about his age, I'm not going to go into that. But so what I think the link I think I'm going to have here is that I'm going to I'm going to pitch this guy. Hey, look, if you back this proposal up, not only will it be historical, but it will be legendary for you because now you've taken an idea to a whole nother realm, and it's going to be a rallying point for other states and other politicians and lobbyists and special interests to now, who is this guy, Westmore? Maybe I want to contribute to his regime, so on and so forth. So I think I can get this guy. I'll be quite candid with you. I think I can get him, and I'm going to try.
As the saying goes, nothing beats a failure but a try. So I,
Exactly.
I can concur with
Exactly.
you. Yeah, but
Yeah.
when it comes to communities, we definitely have to look at the financial aspect. And anytime I hear the word community come up, my ears perk up because I'm thinking, all right, are they going to bring some money? Are you going to
Hmm.
build our infrastructure? You building all this stuff around us, but what
Yeah.
about the things that drives a community? That's
Yeah.
commerce. You got to
Yeah.
have shops and stuff.
Yeah.
People got to feel safe to go to those stores.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to drive 10 or 20 miles just to go get groceries and
I
stuff
agree.
in the
I
suburbs
agree.
and stuff. So
I agree.
so when we're talking communities, it's all about those economics. Okay.
Yeah.
And
And Gary, you know what? One significant economic issue is that when you're working, you file taxes. And a tax return is a critical aspect of wealth and also a critical aspect of your income and what you can do with that income. And so, therefore, when you file a tax return and you can get a tax credit slash and or tax deduction, that's an individual asset growth right there. Yeah, the community is out there, but I'm talking about bringing it home now, right? So, what we want to do with our proposal is bring a value not only to the community, taking guns out of the marketplace, taking guns out of the community, but also giving an asset to an individual tax owner, right? A guy files tax like you and me. And so our proposal does exactly that. We hopefully get guns out the streets. Number two, we incentivize the state of Maryland to work with us and give gun owners a credit and or tax deduction to turn in their guns. There's nothing like this anywhere in America. And if Governor Moore supports this proposition, and the legislature of Maryland supports this will be the first state in the United States that has a template, a plan to incentivize the removal of the most violent instrument in America today, which is a gun.
Okay, that's
That's what
very strong there, because America's love for its guns,
they do.
and thank
And we're
God.
gonna we're gonna pitch it: gun or child,
Yeah,
gun or school, gun or workplace. If you say you love your guns, don't you love your children? Most gun incidents happen in the household. Don't you love the school your kids are going to? Don't man, we people are getting shot now at supermarkets,
yeah,
Walmart, malls, in their parking lot, so on and so forth. So
yeah,
this is I'm gonna get this guy, man.
yeah. All right. Well, those assault rifles certainly they have no need for those in society whatsoever. That I agree with, man, because they're created for one reason and one reason only. That's to kill people.
Not
And
deers. They're
yeah,
not killing
exactly.
deers with them.
Exactly, so, but that's a whole total issue, that certainly we'll come back and address in another podcast. But I'm interested in about, the plain ideas and what are your key points and things like that you've hit on some of them, but can
Mhm.
you help us
Well,
with?
yeah, well, so here's okay. Traditionally, when a person thinks of a think tank, you're really thinking of a organization that is usually staffed by usually I don't want to use the word eggheads, but professors and researchers and lawyers and those kind of entities that come together to advocate for a particular position, a government position, and or corporation. You usually don't think of a think. I mean, working class people really have never had a think tank. And the black community, per se, we've never really had a think tank either. So I started this idea over like 3 decades ago. So we call our think tank Plain Ideas, just a play on words, some esoteric intellectual word, but we also call it an alternative think tank. Unlike the traditional think tanks that are staffed by eggheads, professionals, lawyers, lobbyists inside the government, our think tank is staffed by people that look like me, you, and George, right? Workers of America, the working class of America, mothers, unemployed people, people that may have been incarcerated. All of these entities, no one ever asked them their opinions. And these people work in the trenches. These people in the households, they're working in plants, they're cashiers at restaurants. Our think tank solicits all of their perspectives. So we're in an alternative think tank. As a matter of fact, when the African American Museum was started to gather all of their curated materials for the museum, they sent a list out. I mean, years ago, asking black people what was historical to you. Did you have an historical relic? Did you have a painting in your home? Have you ever started a business? That was the first time there was a business somewhere. And we submitted our project, which was Plain Ideas. We are the only and the first black alternative think tank in America, staffed and researched and full of advocates that look like me, you, and George, and our wives and our brothers and sisters, and guys we work with, guys at the plant. These individuals know about as much as America as any politician. They know how things work. When you have a government agency, you have the head of the agency, but he's got thousands of workers. Who's doing the work? The workers. And so why not use them as resources, as information, as idea creators? And that's what we've been doing for the last 30 years. I have a particular project. I may send 30 emails out to various friends. Some of them are ex-criminals, have done some time. If I'm talking about police reform stuff, I absolutely get their opinions. If I'm talking about a workplace situation or a union, man, I got friends who are in unions. We all have a variety of friends that do all kind of things. But have they ever been asked to present their point of view? Now, America's only usually interested in the rich, intellectuals, a class of people that make up our governance. Most people in our governance in the state or federal level are usually lawyers, and maybe now and then a housewife who wanted to, was working for some civil rights group or some social group about moms against drunk driving and stuff like that. But most of our government workers and our government and people that head our departments are generally lawyers or professionals or researchers. Nothing like plain ideas.
Very interesting perspective. So let me ask you this, Greg. So over the years, how do you think Plain Ideas has impacted your community?
Significantly. In Detroit alone, we were able to, when I lived in Southfield, they wanted to pass a law that would make parents criminals for the actions of their children. And we were able to negate that. We've also been in situations where we were able to, for instance, I used to live in West Bloomfield too. And I would go to these parks and they never had any basketball courts up. And I found out later that the reason why they didn't have any basketball courts, they didn't want any the new residents coming into the communities playing basketball. They don't want our kids playing basketball in public venues, right? So we got some plaques that took all of those rules out. So West Bloomfield now, there's no park in West Bloomfield, Michigan today that does not have a basketball court because we're all over in West Bloomfield. Another situation where we get involved in is that, for instance, if a young man or a young woman is graduated from college and they need a reference letter or a recommendation, usually they may go to their teacher or maybe their pastor. Now we've been in existence for 30 years. We write a ton of recommendation letters. We prepare a number of people for job interviews. We prepare a number of people how to do their resume. We do a lot of mentoring on paper. So we are active on a granular level with regards to the community and helping the community or whoever's in that community want to achieve something. I've helped people write proposals for venture capitalists. And I've helped people write proposals just to join for instance, I'm working on a proposal now in the city of Alexandria for some inmates to join the civilian review board. I think if you have a police review board and you don't have an ex-inmate in there, you're going to lose a lot of information about how criminals think about crime and how these guys interact with our police departments. To me, to have a civilian review board and you don't have anybody on there that's been quote unquote arrested or involved with the police, how effective is it? So we do a number of things, George.
Interesting.
We're all over the map, actually.
So let me ask you this: so why did you decide to bring Plain Ideas back now?
Actually, it never went underground. It was always active. But what happened was I got older and I started having grandchildren. We moved a couple of times, and I retired. And so once I retired, I had many, many more hours and time to really do some things I often wanted to do over the years, but I didn't have the time to do it. So now that I'm retired, I can spend like 3 or 4 hours doing some research. I can go to a number of meetings. I can get together a group of people that I want to work on a particular project. I never had that time before because I was too busy trying to pay the house note, the car note, and keep my wife happy. That
So
kind of stuff.
what's the overall goal for Plain Ideas? 2-year, 5-year plan.
Yeah. So right now we're working on 2 things. We're working on a website. Gary, you might like this. This is a website. Are you guys familiar with Yelp? Okay. Yep. And you know how Yelp ranks certain things?
Right.
We're working on launching a website within the next year or so that rates the top 50 police departments in America. And our rating includes the diversity, the staffing, how many lawsuits, how many people they've shot, how much money they're using, what's their recruitment, so on and so forth. And what we do is that we give it a ranking. So if you're living in Tallahassee, Florida, and you want to move to New York City, right? And you may use Zillow, for instance. And Zillow, if you ever go on, you got George, you're in real estate. If you go on Zillow, Zillow gives you a whole list of the best schools in the area, the best banks, the best restaurants, where the local art galleries are, blah, blah, blah. We're going to add our link to that Zillow platform. So when you live in somewhere and you're going to move to somewhere else, our link will be on Zillow. You pull up Zillow and you find out about the New York Police Department. You find out if you feel comfortable about them, so on and so forth. So, and then we give it a quick down and dirty grade, Gary, maybe a five. A five being a good police department. A one being one that you don't want to get out your car because you might get damaged and hurt, whatever. Okay. Now, I like altruistic things, but I'm also a capitalist. I like money. I want to be the richest man in the world, right? So not only will the website do the community things, but during our research over the project, we found out that law firms, and you see them every day if you ever travel on the highway, they got billboards everywhere. Law firms spend $5 billion in advertisement trying to get people that look like me and you and others for car accidents, slip and fall, medical malpractice, so on and so forth. That's a huge budget. And our research tells us that 99.9% of that budget does not go to black advertisers, does not go to black firms. Does not, we don't see that dollar, but they're trying to get our dollar, but we don't see none of that dollar. So these individuals will be spending money on our website, George. We will get some of that $5 billion pie, right? So not only are we doing some good things, ranking police departments, so on and so forth, we're going to make some money off these law firms that advertise who are looking for our communities. Also, we're going to allow police departments to recruit. We're also going to have a bunch of articles about the new recent case law in the Supreme Court about Miranda rights, blah, blah, blah. We'll do all that. But the big pull is the rating of the police departments and soliciting ads, advertisements, so on and so forth from these law firms. And we're going to hopefully launch it probably maybe at the end of the year. So I'm really spending a lot of time on that. That's taking a lot of my time. But I'm retired now, so I could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure you have the resources and stuff, everything from BLS to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and all that. They give you a lot of data. Not to
Yep.
mention with the
Yep.
onset of AI GPT, it's
Yep.
not going to be very difficult
And
for
every
you.
police department in America has a website.
Right. Yeah.
Extreme and very expansive website. And not only that, some states have now published links where, for instance, Maryland, if a police officer gave me a ticket, I can put his name in the website, his badge, right? And I can find out how many tickets he wrote that month and who were the people he wrote the tickets. Were they black, white, blah, blah, blah? Where they live? There's a lot of links now that are supporting the information about policing in America. It didn't used to be that way at all. You couldn't. If you went to the police department and asked the police department how many times they arrested so and so, you can't get that. You can get that now, and that's going to be on our website too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm thinking here about how manipulative data can be, but in the right hands, it certainly can be
Yeah,
utilized to the effectiveness where it benefits those who have access to it. And for so long, for so many years, it's access, that we have not had to certain data, information, certainly
exactly.
access to the legal system, and more importantly, access to capital.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where that would be certainly a good liaison in working with those community leaders and empowering them with the things that plain ideas we could bring to the table. Um, and just from a visionary perspective, I'm like you, Greg. I'm a capitalist, so I'm looking for that economic impact. So our schools shouldn't be lacking in funding. Again, I'm going back to businesses. You can get you have the right to own a business, but hell, what good is that right if you don't have access to start the business? If you don't have access
Exactly.
to the capital
Yeah.
to continue the business, you understand?
Yes.
So
Yes.
people can get up and wave their flags, America the Great, and blah, blah, blah. That ends
Yeah.
up being BS in the
Yeah.
black community because, to your point, not only are the attorneys with the billboards, hell, we should own some billboards. Okay, so now we get the advertisement. Because if I'm looking for an attorney, I see all these faces when I'm going down the Lodge or
Yeah.
75. You
Yeah.
understand? Anytime I
Yeah.
turn on TV and what have you, you got ABC, NBC, and all the rest of them sees what they're doing is advertising, is getting their dollars, but they're not spending any money with Black Enterprise. They're not spending any money with WLBS. They're not spending any money with Black radio stations. I could go on and on. Okay,
And a lot of these law firms don't have black attorneys either. They
exactly.
don't
If
have
they
black. They
do,
don't have black process servers. They don't
yeah,
have black clerks in their office. Black
yeah,
doing
you
their
know.
research. Blah 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 blah. We know the
Yeah.
drill. We know the
We
drill.
already know, right? So we
Yes.
want some people that's going to be able to make some decision makers. Because nothing irks me more than to go into an establishment. Yeah, they got a black face that meets you, greets you, but in order to make a decision, they got to go in the back and get somebody else to come out and with that
Yes.
decision. So
Yes. Yes.
that that is not equal access to me. All right.
I'm here in DC now. DC has over
Lord.
100 think tanks. And some of these think tanks are over 100 years old. The Brookings Institute, so on and so forth. None of them are black. No black researchers in there. No blacks. They may have a black receptionist that answers the phone, or when you go to the office and get some literature, that's the only black face you see. Behind those doors, the number of white researchers, lawyers, philosophers, blah blah blah. Nothing like Plain Ideas. We have we would be historical just if NBC called me up one day and said, Greg, are you the only black alternative think tank in America? Yes. But they don't even want to know that. And I don't care if they don't want to know that because it works for me. It works for my
It's
community.
like this, I just tell people, hey, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. All right. So and it's the same way when they want to know what we think, they'll give us something to think. And that's why we got all these distractions and stuff out here to keep us from thinking because they
Exactly.
give them something else to think about. But
Exactly.
and I'm not going to use that term woke because very people that use woke are dead asleep. Okay. No, you're not paying a daggone attention. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Just the Greg Thrasher show. Back to you, George.
I mean, this is a real interesting discussion. I mean, because that's what we need more stimulation in the community, and these are the kind of subjects that we need to talk about and discuss. So, Greg, how do you plan to get this word out? I mean, you do you have a website, podcast, or if somebody wanted to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
they wanted to link up, they wanted to be a
Yeah.
part of it.
Well,
How
they can,
how
they
how
can
do they go about that?
sure. Well, we have a blog. The blog is called Plain Ideas, and we have over 100,000 followers on the blog presently. I've never monetized the blog or anything like that, but they can also, obviously, you can send me an email. You can send an email to plainideas@msn.com. You can send me an email if it's personal, Greg_Thrasher@msn.com, and just Google the word plain ideas and you'll go right to our blog. And on the blog is a number of commentaries, a number of ideas, proposals. Some are business driven, some are political, some are social. But it's, you got to go where the people are. And young people have taught me this. They text a lot. They have these podcasts. This is my first podcast, by the way, and so you have to go where the audience is, and they like the blog. They like short messages and things of that nature. And so a lot of those commentaries on our Plain Ideas blog, they're not over maybe 300 words, something like that. You don't want to bore the people you're trying to appeal to. You want to capture them, right? Which is why I have 100,000 followers. Not
Well,
only is the content great, it's short and sweet.
well, here again, man, we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all this information. And hopefully, not hopefully, but we will definitely have you on again, to talk about, as issues come up. I can see how we can plug you in to get the community side of,
Sure.
how these issues are playing out,
Sure.
especially as we got these elections are coming up, and how these things affect people financially. I think is going to be really important. And trying to get ideas with you this close to the community is probably going to be some good information for our listeners.
And we've
So
done some work on campaigns too. We've done some political consultants for campaigns as well. So we're versed in that area as well. And we're around. Call me. I'm available. Or the
okay,
group. Or the group.
sounds good. Make him a honorary member of the Crotchety Old Men, huh, Smitty?
That's right. That's right. There's always room for one more.
Always room for one more. Check that out. All right. So to sum it all up, I mean, it's been a great podcast. Thanks again, Greg, for joining. Smitty, as always, what you got to take us home with today?
All right. Well, here's a quote from Lyle, and it says, "He who knows others is wise, but he who knows himself is enlightened."
Well, all right. All right.
I like
So
that.
as we always say on the Crotchety Old Men, if you didn't know,
Now you know.
now you know. Peace. Take care and have a great day. Thanks,
All
Greg.
right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This is Dr. Paul Clemens with the Crotchety Old Men podcast. If you're interested in financial tools to build wealth, and you're interested in ways to maximize your health through holistic alternatives, then you are just the audience that we're looking for. Tune in each week, every Thursday, to the Crotchety Old Men podcast, where George Crumley, Gary Smith, and I offer you in-depth discussions on health and wealth. Subscribe to the Crotchety Old Men podcast on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your favorite podcast.